Americans invested more money in the past 5 months than they did in the last 12 years. This is a Fortune story. Over the past 5 months, over $500 billion has flowed into equity funds, according to a report from Bank of America. That's more than the past 12 years combined. There are a number of reasons for the surge in investments. Individual investors have been especially active as stocks like GameStop, AMC have seen big surges this year thanks to Reddit's Wall Street Bets community, and overall optimism about the pandemic has been on the rise since early November 2020 when Pfizer first reported that trials on COVID-19 vaccine showed it was 90% effective. The market themselves have been helping spur investment enthusiasm as well. The S&P is now up 17% in the past 5 months. NASDAQ Composite is up 27%. The Dow Jones is up 27%. Approximately $569 billion has gone to global equity since November. In the previous 12 months combined, the total was just $452 billion. Thoughts?
Yeah, the numbers are here. We're going to have to break down some of these numbers. But just put yourself in the shoes of the common investor, right? Especially younger people who you're sitting at home. You're getting stimulus check after stimulus check after stimulus check. There's been, 3 rounds of stimulus checks. And there's been, $5 trillion pumped into the U.S. economy.
Yep.
Printed. I learned digitally, not even necessarily real hard cash. And you're sitting at home. You got nowhere to go. You got nothing to do. Some people are going to maybe fix up their houses. But if you're a renter, or if you're just looking to get involved in the market, where else are you going to go? So traditionally, 55% of Americans have invested in the stock market. 80% of Americans have debt. So they're looking, the key to this article is over the last 5 months versus the last 12 years.
Yeah.
5 months versus 12 years.
That's right.
So
it's $140 billion more in the last 5 months
insane.
than the last 12 years.
People don't understand how much a trillion is. People don't understand how much a trillion is. I actually ironically spoke with Ted Koppel one time after a NALBA event, ironically, and he started talking about the trillion. He said, and he gave the analogy, if you went into business with Jesus, your boy, your main man, if you went into business with Jesus 2020 something years ago, and you guys made $1 million a day, you wouldn't even made $1 trillion. Do some quick math for me. 220 times $1 million is what? 220 million or 200?
Well, we say if you made $1 million a day for the last
$1 million a day for the last
years.
Yeah, what is that number?
Well, no, you got to do $1 million a day times 365, which is 365 million. 365 million times 2,000. I think it's $1 trillion.
Little under $1 trillion. Point that I'm getting at. Do some fact checking.
Call out Ted Koppel right now.
Yeah,
everybody.
no, Ted Koppel's smart. Point is, if you went into business with Jesus, you made $1 million a day for the last 2,000 years, it wouldn't even be $1 trillion. So, did you got some math for me?
He's actually right. 730 billion.
Okay, that's my point. 730. So if you and Jesus get into business,
$1 million
you're printing money, $1 million
every day, 730 billion.
So you don't even make $1 trillion. So now you're talking about infusing $5 freaking trillion into the economy, and you're just sitting at home, nothing to do. You hear things like buy the dip, because clearly it dipped a year ago. Now the market's making a comeback.
Yep.
Bonds are paying nothing. Cash is paying nothing. So what else are you going to do with your money? You have Elon Musk. I think half of all people invested their money based on an Elon Musk tweet. Like all these ridiculous stats. Here's the challenge, though, because obviously I'm a big fan of the stock market. It's amazing. It's awesome. It's awesome. But we're talking over the last 5 months. So all these new investors potentially know is up.
Yep.
That all they know is the rocket ship that's been going to the moon. What happens when the bubble bursts and the market goes down?
What
happens to these investors?
Well, I think the average consumer, the average Joe on the street, middle class, is now seeing, hey, I can join the party, and there's a lot of buzz. Come join the party. The water's fine. The market's up, and they've got Reddit, and it's happening to them on mainstream Main Street Bets, but also in the mainstream social media is hitting them on Facebook. It's hitting them at Robinhood. Oh, Robinhood! It's so easy. Just click here, click here, click here. Open yourself a little account. So I think there's number one. There's a lot of buzz. Number two, there's enablers making it easy. They can just open up a Robinhood account and they can do it, connect their checking account, bang, done. It did not used to be that easy even to open an Ameritrade account. Remember that? It was not easy just to move even $500 to start that. So now it's very easy. There's a lot of enablers. There's a lot of buzz going out there, and people have the perception that it's up, 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 and they don't realize the ups and downs. And they've got time on their hands. And I also think what's happening, investment is, I think, a reaction to what they saw happening. So I'm wondering if also in middle-class America, they're thinking, maybe I do need to think a little bit for myself here and do a little bit of this. Because last year, my cousin was in real estate. That sucked. My other cousin was in with cruise ships. That was terrible. You know, I think that there's also some like, maybe I need to do something here. But a lot of enablers and a lot of buzz.
One time I read a book called Ageless Man. Okay, Ageless Man. So this guy was a pro-steroids guy. Pretty crazy story I'm about to tell you right now. Pro-steroids guy. It's a hardcore steroids guy. It's like, listen, you got to take steroids. Like, I got to take steroids. I'm telling you. As you age, you got to take steroids. But before you take it, read this book, Ageless Man. So I go buy this book and I start reading it, Ageless Man. And his argument was, based on studies they did on rats or whatever, you know, it's real like studies they did on it in the book. I mean, he could be making it up, but in the book I'm reading it that they did studies. That folks whose testosterone level drops, you die younger than those whose testosterone level is higher, okay? So you're looking at it like, okay, great. So, well, this person does steroids, that person does growth hormone, this person does this, and nowadays there's the movement of doing what? TRT and taking a little bit of, GH. Not the real big, the whole GH, but slight GH, right? Okay. Who's right on the argument? Okay, are the arguments towards steroids are good or steroids are bad? Historically, we've been told steroids are what? Bad for you, right? Growth hormone is what? Bad for you. In some cases, growth hormones worked for many kids. In some cases, steroids have worked for older people. A lot of times you'll see a 75-year-old saying, hey, what happened to you? I just went to the doctor today. They gave me a shot of what? A steroid shot. What steroid shot, right? Okay, you're going to see where I'm going with this. The consequences of being raised in a great community or bad community. The price of going to private school, kids become drug addicts more at private schools than they do public schools. All these different data that we get, right? Hey, if you spoil them, if you love them too much, if you discipline them too much, the side effects of this. Okay. We have no clue what the side effects are of giving people $5 trillion of funding. We don't know. There is no market research on this. We can't go look at anywhere and say, here's what happens. So everything we're experiencing today is out of whack. You don't know what your body's reacting to today. So you can't sit there and say, this is real, this is fake, this is this. So I'll tell to people, this is fake money. So give the argument, this is fake money. They'll say, well, according to what we're looking at right now, nothing is showing the fact that printing money and putting money into the economy is a bad thing. Nothing. Some experts will even say that. Well, okay, so if that's the case, why don't we keep giving everybody $1 trillion every 6 months? If it's so great, give everybody $1 trillion every 6 months. Let's just fund it and see what happens. Forget about people working. Let's just keep giving people money. They're going to invest into the stock market. So if they invest into stock market, who's going to work at Amazon for $45,000 a year if we're giving them money? Who's going to have a job? So there has to be a part where people realize fake kind of success like this, where people invest more in 5 months than 12 years, you can, in the world of sales, like I run a sales company, if one of your guys all of a sudden is used to doing, pick a number, $100,000 a month, and for the last 3 years, he's always at $100,000 a month, and he grows every year at a rate of 12%. So it's nothing crazy. He grows at 6 to 12%, this sales guy. He used to do 100,000, now he's doing 110,000, now he's doing 120,000 a month, but it's generally around the $100,000 number. All of a sudden, he goes from 100,000, like if you're talking about 5 months, 12 years, that's what? That's 24 times, 25 times more if you really break it down per month, right? Like if you take down $569 billion, let's actually do the math on this. Kai, do me a favor and divide 452. Divide that by 120 months. Divide that by 120 months. Okay, I'm going to do 569 divided by 5 months. How much? 452 divided by 120 months. Actually, 12 times 12, 144 months. Okay, here's the crazy number. How much? 3.1. Here's the crazy number. You ready? This is the number. It says $569 billion have gone into equities in the last how many months?
5 months.
You divide it by 5, what's the number? 113.8, okay? Then it says what? $452 billion in the last what? 12 years. How many months in a year? 12. 12 times 12 is what? 144. You take $452 billion and you divide it by 144 on how much went into equities every month? 3.1. We went from 3.1 billion a month to talking about 113.8 bill. So if you actually break that down, that's like a sales guy going from doing $100,000 a month Let's do 113 divided by 3 is what? That's like a guy going from doing $100,000 a month to all of a sudden he's doing $3.7 million a month.
It's crazy.
That's crazy. So you can't just sit, oh my gosh, he's killing it. Great job. What a fantastic job. He must be doing good. You have to be naive if you don't investigate and say, what the hell is going on here? There's got to be some. So there's two reactions to it. There's almost, do you notice a level of panic with people like, oh my gosh, I better get my hands on the money that's being made, Coinbase, Bitcoin, Ethereum, NFT. Yes. Oh my gosh, it's like this anxiety it's creating in everybody.
For sure.
Okay, right. You know what that's going to do? That same anxiety and rush when you take drugs, when you take too much coffee, when you drink too much alcohol, when you are too much, and you get off, you know what happens? It's called a crash.
Yep.
Now, forget the market crash. It's called a crash.
Within yourself, you're saying.
How does crash feel after you have 12 glasses of 12 cups of coffee? How does crash feel after you get off some kind of drugs or alcohol? What's the crash feel like? And I'm talking about like a heavy duty crash. I'm not talking about like a light crash. I'm talking about like a real crash.
Yep.
It's extreme. You're lethargic. You can't even get out. My concern is the crash is going to create the kind of lethargic that we've not seen before. I hope I'm wrong. But there is no mathematical evidence that this works. I can't get it. There is no mathematical evidence that this is good to sit there and say, fantastic, how awesome is it? You know, your kid is used to getting 7 hours of sleep. All of a sudden, your kid is going on 2 hours of sleep for 2 straight weeks, and you sit there and you don't do anything with it. You think it's normal? You have issues.
Right.
If your kid is going on, you're like, wait, what's going on? The other night, Tico, crazy story. Tico never goes to sleep early, ever. To the other one's like, I'm going to go to bed early. I'm like, what? So I'm going to bed early. You're not going to bed early. So no, I just want to go to bed early. I'm tired. So I go to Jen. Jen's like, babe, Tico never goes to bed early. Is something okay with him? I said, I don't know. Let me go see. I go to his room. Okay? He's under his sheets. Okay? He's 9, so he's not under his sheets at 14. He's under his sheets at 9. Okay? So I look to see what he's up to. He's got the iPad under his sheets. I'm like, okay, you don't wonder you're going to bed early. You don't ever go to bed early. He figured out a way to get that iPad upstairs, and he's playing a little bit of video games. Because I had to get the last, what do you call it when the game, you got to get a screen, not a skin. I had to get that skin. I said, what is a skin? He says, it's like an NFT. I have to get that skin for this game. I'm like, you literally went and took the iPad, came upstairs? He says, yeah. So you have to study trends. There is something very suspicious about the way the numbers are growing, and people cannot sit there and say, this is real. You better have some puts. You better have some defensive strategy here. You better be ready that if the market hits and shit hits the fan, what is defensive? What is defensive? Okay, defensive is gold. Defensive is the complete opposite of what everybody else is doing today. You just got to be ready today because this to me doesn't feel real. Anyways, no, I could be wrong. I'm speculating, but none of this stuff makes any sense to me.
Well, number one, kudos to Tico for going to bed early. Number two, by the way, we all just got a glimpse of Pat's beautiful mind when it comes to math. That was freaking ridiculous. I'm still trying to put 100 billion into a calculator.
Math. Nothing I did was calculate.
That was kind of ridiculous. 500 million.
No. It's just 12. No. He. It's called the perspective effect.
No, I know you're a rocket scientist. So for us, regular folk
I'm
out
the
there,
son of a rocket
impressed.
scientist.
That's right, son of a rocket scientist, literally, the son of a rocket scientist. But my major point here is this, and you brought up a great point. There's so much stuff going on right now. Coinbase IPO and the SPAC and the NFTs and the market's up and the fight. It's just like what you need to do if you're home listening is just find your center of gravity and not compare yourself to everyone else that's doing all this, and the Winklevoss twins are making $10 trillion, and the guy down the street, my Uber driver, he's now the crypto billionaire. It's like, just figure out your situation. Like we talked about last time, crazy numbers of people are paying off debt. That's awesome, right? Pay off your debt, save that money, start getting invested, but have, defense in place, and just find your center of gravity because there's so much nonsense going out there. It's so easy to get swept up with all the chaos and the momentum that's going on. That, like you said, the crash is inevitable, whether it's within yourself or whether it's the market, and just find your balance so you're not.
What you just said, there's only evidence of the front half. to Pat's point, there's no evidence of the back half about the responsibility, setting aside what you've earned on the investments and being responsible and prepared for the dark side. There's plenty of evidence what we just talked about on the front side. Wow, I got some money, some stimulus check. And what was it 2 weeks ago? Government said that millennials and some of the older Zs were actually investing their stimulus checks, because they still had their job. And it was a white-collar job. It was an industry that wasn't very much affected. They still had their job. So that well, guess what? Here's some free money for the government. You know what? You used to get a free toaster when you opened up a checking account at SunTrust Bank in Miami. Now this is like the government saying, well, here's a brokerage account and here's almost $2,000. Go for it.
And you brought up a good point, the gamification of stocks with Robinhood.
Yeah, someone says happy birthday on your iPhone and you get all the confetti or congratulations.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you noticed that Robinhood, I went in and I checked it out, Robinhood, it does that. You have all this stuff. It's Anybody seen Robinhood, that when you make a trade or something on Robinhood, they give you, there's this screen effect? And so it's almost like they've turned something that's very serious that requires a level of caution into what feels like a game.
Yeah.
And with some of Uncle Sam's money that was free.
So the whole thing with save your money, save your money, save your money. Cash is king, cash is king, cash
Save
is
that
king.
money,
Yeah,
baby.
no, of course, save that money, cash is king. And I'm a big proponent of that.
Yeah.
But I'm also not for right now. I'm also, even for the investor that's a smaller investor, you put a little bit of in stuff that cannot be reprinted. In the last couple of years, I've put, nearly $5 million into cards. Okay.
Yeah, what you've done
you
with
see
cards
everyday
is amazing.
cards are coming over here, right?
And not just baseball cards, not just basketball cards. You have Elvis and Marilyn Monroe.
No. I got
and Cary Grant. And
I got the most crazy cards that come in.
Yeah,
right?
No, 2 weeks ago, he had all the 50s, the glamour golden years of Hollywood.
Yep.
That Sinatra card.
Yesterday, I got some very weird cards that came in, but I set them aside, right? Why? It cannot be reprinted. Folks, pay very close attention to whatever can be reprinted at any point. Decision made by the government, that's your competitor. Your competitor says, I'm going to reprint money. That's pathetic if you can reprint money. It's like saying anybody can reprint the 1986 Fleer Michael Jordan, and hey, Fleer says, we're going to reprint 10 million of the cards. Out of those 10 million out of cards, right now, there's only 315 of them, give or take, graded PSA 10. You get 3,100 of them graded PSA 10. That card goes from $350,000 card, $400,000 card, to $50,000 card. So it's the reason why Ken Griffey's card, rookie Upper Deck 1989, is now worth $300,000, because there is a couple thousand of them PSA 10. It doesn't carry the same weight. Whatever gold cannot be reprinted. Cards cannot be reprinted. Unique art cannot be reprinted. We read this with the article the other day from Bank of America, the Merrill Lynch guy. Remember the Merrill Lynch guy that we read about? Start pay a little attention to that, because it cannot be reprinted. So if you enjoyed this little short segment from the podcast that we did, here's another short segment to watch. Or if you want to see the entire podcast, click over here. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.